a call any minute, I imagine. Intro?
No, go. We don't have an intro, it's not a street theme.
Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio. It's me, Tony B. We are live here again with you doing our special broadcast on the impacts of coronavirus in South Seattle. We do these broadcasts every Friday from 1 to 3. We started actually March 13th was our very first one. And boy, what a broadcast that was. We had Candace Jackson here from the King County Health Department, and she, for those of you who were able to connect with us on Facebook or through our video platform, were able to see the presentation about the coronavirus, what it was, what the steps were that were going to be taken. Since then, things have evolved and changed quickly almost every day. We are now in a complete lockdown situation. Well, I won't call it lockdown, but you know what I mean. You're supposed to stay isolated. You're supposed to stay in your home unless you are an essential worker or unless you are going to get something that you need. I think that you can still go outside to get some air, but this has gotten to a completely different place. Joining us today will be a number of different guests. Karl Schroeder will be here. He is the president of the Seattle division of stores, and that's a lot bigger than it sounds. Also, Leigh Thomas will be here, the president of FEEST, or excuse me, the CEO of FEEST, which is an organization that has been delivering food since this thing got started. Also joining us will be Josephine Howell. Now, if that name sounds familiar, Josephine is the Seattle strong songstress who has delighted umpteen numbers of people with her incredible voice and spirit. She has tested COVID positive. And she has also been courageous enough to come on the air with us today and share her story about where and how she thinks she got it, what she's going through right now. And you're going to hear all of that information directly from Josephine herself. And she does want everyone to know that she has it, because if you came in contact with her, she doesn't want you to get sick. And it may give you a reason to get a test, because it's still not easy to get tests. And then also Doug Baldwin, former Seattle Seahawk, and he created the Family First Foundation. Will be joining us as well to talk about what the Family First Foundation is doing in Seattle and written in our surrounding communities during this pandemic. Joining me on the air right now, President of the Seattle Division, Mr. Karl Schroeder. Mr. Schroeder, how are you?
Doing great, Tony. Pleasure to be here with you and listeners in our community.
Well, let's define what that means before we get started. President of the Seattle Division, and I'm saying Safeway, but it's actually more than Safeway, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct, Tony. So the Seattle Division is all of the Safeway stores, Albertsons, Hagen's, and in Alaska, Cars. So we have in the division, we have 245 stores and about 26,000 employees.
I was talking to the mayor of Bremerton yesterday and sharing one of my favorite quotes. It comes from Mike Tyson about how an opponent was planning for him and the strategy that they were going to use, and he was asked how he was going to deal with that, and he said, "Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the nose." Let's start with that. The impact that this has had on you. Do you, and I'm sure you do you have a disaster plan so that you can put things into motion? When did you get started on this plan? And tell us what Safeway, what all the stores did, what you did when you saw this begin to unfold.
Sure, I'd be glad to. So a number of things happened. We've always had contingency plans for different kinds of disasters. When we've had a snow scare might be an example, or earthquake. I think the thing that's unique about this one is it's been such a long, prolonged draw. And really the biggest things that I could comment on is the specifics around, in particular, our employee and customer safety, because we're open and our employees are on the front line of this thing. And then I can chat with some specifics on the supply, warehouse and transportation and product flowing into our stores. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad to start with safety.
Okay, and so let's start with that. Again, you have to have something in place, but this was different. This was not an earthquake. Employee safety. Let's start with that one. What was that process? When did that start? And obviously, this is something. Well, is it something that you implemented unilaterally across all stores at the same time? Were there certain areas that broke out first that you became aware of? And of course, our concern is South Seattle.
Yes. Well, there's a couple pieces of that. One is we certainly move fast and communicate daily with store directors rolling up to district managers, and then we have a daily call with them. And by the same token, we're actually part of a national company, so we have 2,200 stores across the U.S., so we were able to certainly communicate, use best practices, and then leverage supply chain across. As you know, a lot of this hit in the Seattle area before it really did in the rest of the nation. So we were able to start doing a lot of things quickly that helped us. For instance, hiring third-party workers to help us in with truck driving and warehouse selecting. But in our stores, I would start out by telling you just how absolutely inspired I found our employees in total. I mean, folks, knowing there's danger, not just came to work, but said, "Where do you need me?" A lot of them working extra long hours, taking care of each other, and really rallying to help the communities and really be in a role to serve at a time of need. And that's with a surge of traffic and business that came in. So we really had to work hard to make sure that we were in a role that was leading on how we take care of them. So if you've been in our stores, you know our great employees, and they're good on a calm day, and they have just really risen to the occasion in the effort here in the pandemic. But if you're in our store, you've seen we've installed plexiglass that serves as a protective barrier between customers and the cashiers, and I think that provides added reassurance and peace of mind. You'll see some markings on the floor, so we're just asking customers to be mindful of standing behind that partition to protect both. We're really relying on the health department and the CDC with guidelines to guide us. A lot of people have different ideas of what's the right thing to do. We think following the CDC guidelines, things like frequent hand washing, use of hand sanitizer, and surface cleaning. So we've got it set. So we've asked our cashiers in particular to use the sanitizer after every order. We're shutting down check stands once every hour to clean from one end to the other. So you may be in our stores at a busy time and see a check stand get shut down. That's what's going on there. We're just making sure we're keeping it super clean. We're taking enhanced measures in our store overall to clean and disinfect all departments, touch points, restrooms, things for the employees like time clock area, and really doing a deep cleanse throughout the day, but in particular each night. So we've adjusted our store hours in our 24-hour stores. We've gone down to, in all stores, from 6 a.m. to 10 to allow us primarily to clean, but also to help with restocking. Cart wipes, hand sanitizers, and a lot of stores you'll actually see an employee at the entrance wiping off the carts and baskets to hand those out. We're asking our customers who do want to still bring in reusable bags they can do that, but we're asking them to pack their own at the request of our employees. And if somebody doesn't want to use their bag, we'll bag it into paper or plastic. Plenty of supply there, so we're working our way through that. I mentioned we adjusted our store hours. You'll see in our stores right now, in most stores, it's blue tape, but starting today, we're actually replacing the tape with decals that are a little bit more descriptive about social distancing. 6 feet is basically 2 carts, so you'll see those in the check stands and in front of our service departments that will just help customers help each other with social distancing. We do recognize that's a very important piece of this. And then we've dedicated some shopping windows. Right now it's Tuesdays and Thursdays in every store in the division from 6 a.m. to 9. And we've set that time aside for senior citizens or other at-risk populations, pregnant women or folks with compromised immune systems who might have been advised to avoid leaving home as much as possible. So, we're not talking about people that have tested positive, obviously, or that are in quarantine, but somebody that might be a little more vulnerable or not feel as comfortable when there's crowds in there. So we're asking everybody else that's not in that category to honor that and not to come to our stores between 6 and 9 to help those folks. We also look hard at our delivery service. So we have home delivery and we have drive up and go function in many stores. And so we've gone to a contact-free delivery procedure for the team. We've eliminated the need for the customer to sign for the order, so we take that step out of it. And we've also set up free delivery in pharmacy for folks that might rather do that than come in. I started this comments about what a great job our employees have done, and we recognize that we were among the first. We actually are giving our employees, all employees on the front lines, a temporary $2 per hour increase above and beyond their regular pay and overtime just to reward them for the great job that they're doing. We just announced this morning that we're extending that again for the next pay period because they're really doing a good job, and they're coming in and they're working hard on all of the listeners' behalf.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. This is our special 2-hour show that we're going to do every Friday as long as we need to on the impact of the coronavirus on South Seattle. We'll have different folks come by and talk about how it's impacting them. We'll talk to service providers. We talked to business owners. We've talked to the executive director of the Seattle Public Schools Athletic Department. We're talking to folks from our community who are testing positive. And right now we are talking to the president of Safeway Seattle Division. Again, something you probably don't think about, but everybody goes to the store, and the stores have remained open, and it's been orderly. Let's talk about this. Just again, back to the employees for a minute. These are folks who are essential workers, so they have to come to work. So that the rest of us can isolate and do the things that we need to do and make sure that we have. Are there things that you are doing just specifically in the interest of the care of these employees as frontline employees? We've talked about some of the things that you've implemented for social distancing. You put the plexiglass in place, but behind those things, there are human beings who are putting themselves on the front lines, and we appreciate them. Can you talk a little bit about, from that perspective, from the employee's perspective, the long hours that they have to work? What are some of the things that you can tell me about the people? And again, we acknowledge what an amazing job that they're doing by just showing up. But some of the folks who are showing up.
Sure, it's a good question, and one I'm glad to talk about. And I can't say enough how just impressed and inspired I am overall. I'm getting into stores every single day, trying to get into different stores and thank folks. It's hard when I can't shake their hands or hug them for the great job they're doing, but the most common response that I get when I say to our employees, just want to say thanks for what you're doing, they look at me a little bit surprised and say, of course, like it's what we do. It's, we're professionals at this. And it's so amazing. But I think part of it is, along with just the pay and all the safety things that we've laid out, there's a number of other things. We've reassured all of them that if anybody is off because of a direction for quarantine, that we would pay them for that time their full salary, and they wouldn't have to dip into their own benefits or sick pay to do that. We think that's certainly the right thing to do. We also have an employee assistance line and program that folks that are maybe doing okay physically but might be struggling a little bit mentally can get help there. You've got an internal grant process for employees that might be impacted. But I think one of the things that helped a lot is we got out early on this and communicated to our employees that, look, if anybody isn't comfortable coming to work right now, maybe they're older or in a vulnerable situation or have underlying health issues, we've told them, look, just stay off the job. We'll welcome you back when this all blows over and you'll be more comfortable. And we've had a number of employees gratefully and thankfully do that. That's offset by the fact that, the Seattle hiring market was tight before all this started. And when we first saw this happening, it was before kind of everything broke loose here. We had run an ad in a media release saying we could hire 2,000 employees that day. Mm-hmm. And we've streamlined the hiring process. Likely you could come in and apply and be working either the next day or the day after that. And then as everything unfolded with a lot of other industries shut down, we did wind up having a lot of folks come in, and we've hired a lot of folks. And as we've had some employees self-select to stay off the job, we've been able to backfill pretty quickly with other employees coming in. Just created, we've had to be good at training and get people indoctrinated pretty quickly here, but it's balanced it off, and it's especially been helpful as our traffic has ramped up, and there's been sort of the spurts of businesses for announcements have come along at us the last 28 days with the lockdown or the restaurants closing. But I will say this, this is different than we mentioned, like when there's a snow scare or an earthquake. There is a general sense of calm and cooperation that I find in almost every store. I realize there's outliers sometimes, but generally our employees have handled themselves so well and are staying calm and patient and serving the community so well. I think that's helped the customers that are in our stores react the same way. So it's been such a positive experience and just so incredible at the job that our teams have done. I mean, all of you see our folks on the very front line, but if you think about people working at the warehouse, they went from 5 days a week, 8-hour shifts to 7 days a week, 12 on, 12 off, and just working really, really hard to keep stuff flowing to the stores and keep us in good supply.
Well, I can definitely say in regards to the Rainier Beach store and the store on Rainier Avenue Radio, kudos to them. It's been an important part of our community. Folks know that they can go. Folks have to get their medicine there. They get and everybody goes to the store. It doesn't matter whether you're unsheltered, homeless, whatever the circumstances are, unless you're getting it delivered. Everybody's at the store. Karl, I'm going to ask you again. We talked about that supply line, and there's information that you may not have, but information that I've heard, and I'm certainly not an expert on this, but from what I've been told, that you cannot ingest COVID-19. Now, that leads to my next question, which in particular to fruits and vegetables. What are you doing to ensure, again, and then people come into the stores, and that's probably the area of concern, and it's got to be an area of concern for you. The same thing that this virus is so transmittable. How can people feel comfortable, or as comfortable as they can feel, that the virus isn't getting on something that is unwrapped that they're going to eat?
Yes, it's a very good question, and again, I would just rely on the guidance that we're getting from health departments and CDC. And it's a virus. It's not a foodborne issue. But I would just remind folks, both when they're in shopping to help others and then to help themselves, just washing their hands frequently. Try to handle as little produce as you can, rather than handling a lot of produce and not buying it. Certainly use the same good practice you would use before all this started, where wash produce before you consume it. We've closed all of our self-service departments. So if you're in our stores right now, you'll see the self-service hot wing bars have been closed. We still have packaged wings available, and we have our service cases open, where you would have an employee behind the counter that would package it or slice the meat for you, whatever. But anything self-service, hot bars, salad bars, olive bars, we've opted to shut those down. Even our donut cases and bake cases, we're just packaging that product for now. So I think if folks are following just the good sanitary guidelines that you would use every day, and then just be aware of what you touch while you're in the stores, but also know that we're basically doing what's called a level 2 cleaning protocol, which is a very thorough deep cleaning in every single store every single day, and we're cleaning throughout the day along the way as well.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio .world. It's me, Tony B. My guest joining me is Karl Schroeder, president of the Seattle division for Safeway, Albertsons, Hagen's. I know I'm missing a couple, and then that extends, what did you say, Karl, all the way up to Alaska, and where else?
Northern Idaho.
And Northern Idaho. Well, first of all, thank you for taking the time to come on here and join us and share this valuable information. In South Seattle in particular, and I don't know if this is, but we have a very, very diverse community, which I'm sure you know. As a community, do you stock or different ethnic foods specifically for a community, or is it pretty much consistent throughout Safeways, no matter where you are, or in an area like South Seattle where you have such diversity, you might have more specific type of foods? Does it work like that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely it does. And it's beyond just, one store being set differently than another store. It's within departments in those stores. and then within given sets. So an example might be a store near a college might have a different assortment than a store away from a college. But we across all of our stores, we look at the demographic makeup, and we would match our sets within those stores to have wider or smaller selections of the items that community might be interested in buying. So really, rather than us dictate that, we just look at the numbers and see what's selling, and then expand and contract accordingly.
Because I've noticed that, in the stores that I go into, there's a wide array of diverse food offerings to accommodate a number of different cultural backgrounds, and they're continuing to be stocked. It's not like, well, we don't have, certain cultural foods as opposed to the others. And that's something, again, now that I've asked that, you're obviously conscious of, that different communities also require different comfort foods.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we do. Some departments it's a little bit easier than others, just given the suppliers and the sheer number of stores that we have to make sure that we can keep it in supply. But it's pretty easy. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you know Shell at Rainier Beach. If somebody's looking for something that you think we're missing, then we're open to that, and just grab the store director and offer that as a suggestion. We have a group here at the central office that's all they do is try to do it. So, I mean, here's the simplest I can put it. If you guys want to buy it, we want to sell it. So we'll work our way through that with you.
I want to give you the opportunity for final words here, if there's any. Oh, well, before I say that, I don't even know if I can say this, but you're partnering with the Family First Foundation. Is that correct? Can we talk about
Family First Foundation?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
And Doug Baldwin is actually going to be on here at 2:30 talking with us. Let's talk about this partnership with the Family First Foundation and Doug Baldwin, if you wouldn't mind doing that. Like I said, Doug's going to be on at 2:30, but we can steal just a little bit of thunder here.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not just a great organization by a great individual, but it's a great fit with us. We're providing the food and they're providing the drivers, and obviously it's very timely here. So we're glad to partner with him. And you'll also notice when you're in our stores, when you go through the check stand at the pin pad, there's the opportunity to donate change or whatever you want to donate. That is going to help people that are in need right now during the crisis. And, there's a number of organizations we're working with, but we've pledged Safeway that we'll match donations up to $3 million from our customers. So if we can put together change that adds up to $3 million, that becomes $6 million, and it'll help support good organizations like the one Doug's put together.
Okay, I want to give you the opportunity for final words here, Karl. I just ask that as things continue to change and as they evolve, and it's been changing every day, let's just stay in touch so that we can share information that you have with our listeners, with our audiences, who are the people that go to your stores, and that way we can ensure that everybody knows what's going on and folks have been prepared, and folks, again, from what I've seen, this seems to be going incredibly smoothly. I'm being very cautious about how I'm saying that because things change daily. But just a good job. And so stay in touch with us, and we'll stay in touch with you, and we'll share information. But I want to give you the opportunity here for final words before we go.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. I think that maybe I'd just close with two things. One is we're having daily communications with folks in the supply chain. And while we just got a blast of folks coming in and some buying, pantry loading buying, that supply chain is recovering very well, particularly in the fresh departments like produce, meat, bakery, deli. Produce has been spectacular, by the way, supply-wise. I'm so impressed with the chain there. All the proteins like chicken, beef are very stable right now. We've actually taken limits off of how much stores can order. Pork's a little bit tight right now, but that'll recover. And then, some of the cleaning categories and some of the paper categories, there's a gap in the supply chain, but we're getting it in every day, and every store in our division is getting a truck with product every day. So as folks come in, you might not find the exact item you're looking for, but you'll hopefully find something that'll work, and you can still load a basket if you're in need to do that. So that's one thing. Supply chain's recovering well. The second is I would just just speak on behalf of my leadership team, just how absolutely blown away I am by the professionalism and the hard work of all the employees that you're probably seeing at the front line at the store level. We're in day 28 of just increased business. A lot of them, our leadership team has worked 28 days straight, and our employees are just doing an amazing job. So when you're in there, give them a wink and say thanks for the great job they're doing. I know they appreciate it, and it helps fuel them when they're getting tired.
All right.
Thanks, Tony. I look forward to chatting with you again.
And I'm going to say to you, big shout out to the Rainier Genesee store. I don't think that's Genesee, but you know what store I'm talking about if you live in the neighborhood. And the Rainier Beach store, again, they have just been phenomenal. They've been fantastic. They've been patient. They've been helpful. And they've made going to the store a very pleasant experience when it could be something completely different. So I'm just letting you know your South End stores are doing are doing their thing. All right.
I'm so glad to hear it. Makes my day.
Okay, Karl. Thank you, and we'll check back with you later. You're listening.
All right, stay safe, everybody.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. It's me, Tony B. That was Karl Schroeder, president of Safeway Seattle Division, which again covers a wide swath of territory all the way up to Alaska. And yes, I had to talk with someone from Safeway because our stores are doing great, and it's a central part of whatever we've been able to do here now. Whatever was going on with toilet paper, I hope it's resolved. But that was a whole nother thing that I just don't know that I'll ever be able to explain. Coming up again later on in the show will be Josephine Howell, Seattle Songstress, who will be sharing information about her COVID positive news and information, and then also Doug Baldwin. Coming up next will be Leigh Thomas with FEEST. You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world, our special Coronavirus Friday, 1 to 3 o'clock. We'll be giving you information on how this is impacting our community. We'll be back right after this.
Would you like to see when your favorite Rainier Avenue Radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at RainierAvenueRadio.world. Rainier Avenue Radio News Update.
The number of confirmed cases of the new coronavirus in Washington surpassed 1,000 Tuesday as the state's death toll topped 50. Kane County remains the most concentrated area for COVID-19 infections and patient deaths linked to the virus. Seattle and Kane County Public Health announced 3 additional deaths in King County, bringing the county's death toll to 46, and 30 new illnesses, increasing the total number of cases to 518. Also, King County Sheriff Mitzi Johanknecht wrote a letter to a judge saying her office would immediately stop enforcing court-ordered evictions until further notice. Governor Jay Inslee signed 5 bills related to the COVID-19 outbreak Tuesday afternoon, including $200 million in funding for state agencies, local governments, and tribal governments to help curtail the spread of the virus. The governor's office said that money will be also used to help build hospital capacity and expand testing options statewide.
Rainier Avenue Radio News.
This is your Rainier Avenue Radio.world community update on Seattle City Light's Utility Discount Program application. If you are impacted by COVID-19, otherwise known as the coronavirus, access the Utility Discount application online at seattle.gov/UDP for Utility Discount Program, or call 206-684-3000. That's seattle.gov/UDP or 206-684-3000.
Wash your hands, don't touch your face, wipe things down, clean up your space. When you cough and sneeze, do responsibly. If you feel you're getting ill, feel isolate at home and chill. No, you're not alone. Please pick up your phone and call 206-477-3977. King County 206-477-3977. Public Health 206-477-3977. King County 206-477-3977. Public Health Community Radio Station will provide you with more information. Say Rainier Avenue Radio. Your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not trying out new wigs and cocktail dresses, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
We're back on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. It's me, Tony B. We are having our special series on the impact of the coronavirus COVID-19 on South Seattle and surrounding communities. Again, we'll be doing this every Friday. As long as we need to. We've had the opportunity to talk with several folks from our community and surrounding communities about how this is impacting them. We started on the 13th. All of these shows you can listen to in our archives. Some of them will, if they're not in the archive, we'll be airing them throughout the week, and we put a schedule out. So what you're going to get is a pretty comprehensive overview of how this virus has been impacting a community for the last 3 weeks. We've done and had a wonderful response from our community in sharing what they've been going through as this has progressed. In addition to our community members, we've talked to our community service providers, those in education. We've talked to civic leaders, government officials, and we really just want to give you a wide spectrum of folks who live in this community and are stepping up to the plate. And one of those individuals is on the phone right now, Leigh Thomas of FEEST. Leigh, are you on the line with us?
Yes, hello.
Well, Leigh, first of all, thank you for what you're doing. But let's talk about FEEST and what FEEST is and what services you perform.
Absolutely. FEEST is a nonprofit organization led by youth of color in South Seattle and South King County. And our focus is on food access and food justice and doing the things that need to be done to keep young people healthy, which starts at, the community level. After school, we have a program where we get students together to just cook and eat really good food after school. We actually use the home ec rooms in the schools, and we're working with 4 different schools in the local area, including Rainier Beach High School, but also Chief Sealth High School in West Seattle, Evergreen High School in White Center, and Tyee High School in SeaTac. And it really starts at the dinner table, talking about food, sharing our cultures and building communities. But we also have a lot of conversations about food access and food justice. And a lot of students, get the majority of their meals from school. So we're also working on advocating with the school districts to improve the quality of the food that's served in school, because our young people are telling us that the food is not fresh and not healthy and not relevant to their cultures. And so in addition to getting together and enjoying good food, we're also working on systemic change in the school systems to improve food access for all the young people in our districts.
And how did the coronavirus pandemic, even before it was a pandemic, impact the work that you do? And your clients, your students?
Yes. Well, when we saw that things were starting to happen even before the schools shut down, we decided to take the precaution and cancel our after-school programming with the dinners, because we wanted to make sure that students were safe. And since we are dealing with food and serving a lot of students, we wanted to make sure that that we could keep students safe. And once the schools started canceling, then we, of course, canceled our after-school program. and that meant that students were staying home. And we wanted to figure out a different way that we could to stay connected with our young folks.
Mm-hmm. And tell us what you're doing now in regards to the coronavirus and food.
Yes, well, we have started up a free grocery delivery program specifically for the families who are at the schools that I just mentioned that we normally serve throughout the school year. And we started that up just last Thursday, actually, is when we first announced it. And because we saw a need in the community, we were talking with our young folks and also with our community partners to see what our students were asking for and what resources were already available. And we saw a need to fill in with groceries, and especially for the folks who aren't able to get out to the store, or maybe they need some extra food because now that their students are home, they have to fill their pantries and refrigerators a bit more. So we just started that last Thursday, shopping and delivering groceries. So far, we have had requests from 150 different families in just a week, and we've garnered about 50 volunteers, and also donations are coming in to support with the purchasing of the groceries. And we're finding that it's about $75 for a grocery bill for a family of 4, and so we're really appreciative of the volunteers and the donations that have come in to help support that.
That is just an amazing thing to do. Talk more about that, about the decision, again, to take action and then to do something that ultimately ends up being as massive as you're talking about that, and how people came together and how it was organized.
Yes, well, we're in constant communication with our young folks. We have about 30 student interns that we work with on a daily and weekly basis in our leadership program, and so we were in communication with them. And in addition to the work that we're doing in our regular program, we're serving as mentors to these students, so we want to make sure that they're taken care of. And so we heard what they needed, and even though we had to cancel our regular after-school programs, we understand that we still have an obligation to these young people, and we see this program as an extension of our work in food access and food justice, and saw that a real need for that. And as we thought about what we could do, we already had a budget for our regular programs, and decided to make the move to do a little bit more and stretch it and bring that program into the community. We saw organizations like WaBlock, who's doing some really good work in the Rainier Beach area. They reached out to us and said that they were going to do this meal program in the afternoons. They're right now partnering with a bunch of different restaurants to provide hot meals to students and families in the Rainier Beach area. And so we went out to go join them last Thursday, Friday, and saw that there was a need in the community, and realized that not just for hot meals, but food that's going to get these families through the weeks and days and weeks. So that's where this idea came from. We saw another organization doing some really great work getting meals out to families, and so we wanted to do our own part as well.
And how?
And as far as
go ahead.
As far as how this grew, it was really organically. We didn't have any media attention. We just decided, we had a staff meeting and we said, hey, this this seems like a really good idea. There's a need here. We didn't really know what kind of response we were going to get, but we just decided to take the plunge. And it really just started from a Facebook post. We posted on Facebook and on Instagram, and put a little page up on our website with the sign-up form, and the community did the rest as far as spreading the word, and that's how it got to be as big as it is. We've talked to the school district administrators, and the teachers have been getting the word out to their students as well.
Well, you know, Leigh, as with Rainier Avenue Radio, that's what we do, is we place emphasis on South Seattle. One of the reasons that we do that, and we provide South Seattle community members a voice and an opportunity to amplify their narrative, is because, you know, generally when you hear about South Seattle, it's negative. It's about some sort of crime. And I have to say, it has been a pleasure having an opportunity to showcase so many different members of our community who have done what you have done, just risen to the occasion of saying, this is what we need to do to support our community. And I've said this many times before, is that amazing things happen in South Seattle every day. People just don't hear about it. But these things now are happening, and the opportunity to bring them to light in a critical emergency situation, again, it's just another great reason to be a radio station. I'd like you to tell me about this process, because you're like, well, it just all came. But, I mean, you're talking about $75 probably to feed a family of four. You've already given away, you said, at least 150 meals. You've got over 50 drivers. What was it like trying to get people to commit, to be organized, to follow through on getting this type of work done for you?
Well, we haven't done all 150 deliveries yet, I will say, because we are just such a small team, but the overwhelming support that we've gotten from the community has been absolutely amazing. And so since we've never done anything like this before, as far as a incredibly fast, responsive program like this, we're learning as we go. It's only been a week, and every day we're getting faster and faster and serving more and more families. And what I'm hearing from the folks who want to support is that they are feeling like they can't do anything. They're feeling a little powerless, and for them to have an opportunity to either donate or to volunteer is really rewarding for them. And I've heard from folks that, you know, we don't want to just, you know, sit on our heels. We want to actually be able to do something about what's happening right now. A lot of folks are feeling that sense of disempowerment, whether it's the families that are directly affected, or whether it's other folks who might have more of the means to support. Everyone is seeing the impacts of what's happening right now and wanting to come out and do something. So we're really thankful to see all of the folks who have given us support. It's been amazing.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. It's me, Tony B. Joining me is Leigh Thomas. Leigh, I'm not sure I got your title right for FEEST. What is your title for the organization? Communication and Development Manager, but that also includes community engagement and volunteer coordination as well. Okay. And we are having a conversation about the impact of the coronavirus in South Seattle, and telling you how it impacted this particular organization and what their response was, and how people, again, through these uncharted waters, some folks just said, we're going to do something. And but let's tell us what does that mean? Food justice, as if I'm from the moon. Why is there a thing called food justice, and why do you exist, and why do you do that? What does that mean?
Well, when we're talking about health and the disproportionate health impacts that are happening in communities of color and immigrant communities and low-income communities that have been left behind by the health system and by the food system, food justice is a remedy against that. It fights against that and says, no, we actually do have control over our bodies. We do deserve the best food, the best health as anyone else, and we are going to take the power that we have to actually make systemic change. And sometimes that looks like advocating for what we're doing, which is with the school district to actually change their budgets and their food that they're actually serving, to say that students, can eat beyond just, chicken nuggets and burger patties and cold pizza, but that we actually do deserve something better.
Mm-hmm. And again, is the reason why you are doing this because you feel like there needs to be increased awareness? Ultimately, at the end of the day, when you take this kind of action, why have you decided to start this as an organization? And again, as if I'm from the moon and I know nothing about food injustice.
We heard directly from our students that there is, especially in the South End, in White Center, in other lower income communities, it's a lot easier to afford a burger than it is the organic produce. And our communities are bombarded with fast food and corner stores, and healthy food is either hard to find or hard to afford. And especially for young folks who might not have access in their neighborhoods, it's important that the place that they do get food from, which is school, it has the ability to actually provide for them for their health. What we notice, and it's not really a mistake that there's all these fast food restaurants and bombarding our communities, and that it's harder to get healthy food. This is not a mistake. It is something that has been set up by the system of injustice, that communities like ours have been systemically neglected. And that is something that we notice, and that's something that we have heard from our students as well, that it is hard for them to access fresh food that is not fast food that's healthy. And they notice that, when I go off campus to eat a burger or to get something from the dollar store to eat for lunch, I feel groggy. They feel tired in class, and so these things have a real tangible effect on not just young people's long-term health outcomes, but how they're feeling every day. And we've heard from hundreds of students that is what the very immediate effect of not having access to healthy food has on their bodies, on their minds. And we started a snack program a couple of months ago, and which had really great success, and we gave apples and oranges and granola bars to students during class. And the teachers said overwhelmingly, and the students as well, that students were paying more attention in class, they were in better moods, they were doing their homework, and that made a difference in just 3 months of giving students more healthy food. So we know that the desire is there, that students want to eat healthy but don't necessarily have the access. And so that's what we're really focusing on, is giving students more access to healthy food, despite the fact that systems are working against them. There's a reason that, at, for example, the PCCs and all the organic food stores neglected these communities for so long, because our communities were never seen as valuable or worthwhile or worth investing in. And so food justice sees not just the everyday access to, am I going to eat a fresh apple today or am I going to eat French fries, but also examines why we don't have access to those things, why we're only seeing frozen pizza and burgers in the cafeteria when students in other school districts or in other schools are eating a lot better. And so those are kind of the issues that we've been looking at and that we're hearing from the community and trying to resolve. Of course, there isn't a way that we can bring in more grocery stores to our community. As an organization, we don't have that power, but we do have power to give what we can to our students to make sure that they have something better for their health.
What a wonderful, fantastic program and project, and I'm glad to be able to share more information about FEEST and what you do, in addition to about what you're doing during this crisis. And again, you mentioned that you've just last Thursday, I believe it was, you saw the need, you started to do this. What are some of the things, if you were to ask the community, that you could use as resources that you need right now, as I give you this opportunity also here for final words? Share what some of the needs are that you could use to continue to do the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. We could use more folks who are able to pay for and shop and deliver groceries. We have folks who are, just donating online, but we need actually more shoppers, folks who can actually go out to Safeway or any other local grocery store to do the shopping for these families and do the deliveries. Because like I said, we've got 150 families to serve, and we've got more requests coming in every day. So the more drivers that we have, the faster that we can serve these families.
And how do they get in touch? Who do they get in touch with? What's the way to get in touch with you for those who would like to give, volunteer, donate?
The best way is to go to our website, which is feestseattle.org, and FEEST is spelled FEEST, Seattle.org, and you can sign up there. That's also the place where families can request groceries as well.
And FEEST, is FEEST an acronym? What does it stand for?
Yes, it stands for Food Education, Empowerment, and Sustainability Team.
Okay, so that was a lot. So one more again, tell us what it stands for, and then also tell us where folks can go to give, donate, volunteer, provide resources.
Absolutely. FEEST stands for Food Education, Empowerment, and Sustainability Team. But we do go by FEEST because that's a little bit easier to remember. And our website is FEEST,
Okay, Leigh, thank you for what you're doing on behalf of South Seattle communities. Just do me a favor, stay in touch with us. Let us know how it's going so that we can keep our communities informed about what's going on in our community.
Absolutely, and we plan to continue doing this as long as families need it. It's unknown right now how long schools are going to be closed, and we're just going to keep going as long as there's a need, and we hope that we can get community support as long as there is a need.
All right, Leigh, thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
You too. You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. It's me, Tony B. That was Leigh Thomas again of FEEST. You heard not only what they're doing, how they, again, I said that thing before, when everybody's got a plan till you get punched in your nose. They quickly shifted and turned into a food delivery service, providing food to people, good, healthy food that people may not be getting, even though they're getting something. Another way that is going down here in South Seattle. We're talking about the impact of the coronavirus on South Seattle. Coming up next will be an interview with Josephine Howell. If you're unfamiliar with Josephine Howell, her impact on the Seattle music community is and has been phenomenal in a number of different ways. Her impact not only in Seattle but around the country and around the world for her amazing vocal talent, which is matched only by her empathy and kindness as a human being. She is tested positive for COVID-19, and she would like to take this opportunity to come on the air and share with you her journey as she's going through this and how it happened. We'll be back with you to talk with Josephine in a few minutes right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not stopping a Mercer Island street brawl, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Protegendo pessoas vulneráveis. Não seja um transmissor do vírus. Se você é um adulto jovem e está infectado com o coronavírus, pode estar bem. Você não podia não ter sintomas, mas se você o transmitir para sua avó, que por sua vez o transmitiu ao seu avô, antes que você perceba, você pode ter eliminado uma geração inteira. Quando se trata de coronavírus, você deve pensar para quem pode transmitir o vírus. Portanto, pratique o distanciamento social, evite multidões, lave as mãos e, se tiver a opção de ficar em casa, faça-o. Faça sua parte e não seja um transmissor do vírus. Esta mensagem é um serviço público de Rainier Avenue Radio.world e Somali Youth and Family Club.
Hi, I'm Paul Pearson of StarTime. Did you know that back in the 9th century, Rainier Avenue Radio was the host of the first annual Gregorian chant-off? Man, that was tight. Well, times have changed and so have we. Now you can hear all the great Rainier Avenue Radio shows on our mobile app for Android and iPhone. It's completely free on the Google Play Store and the iPhone App Store. The Rainier Avenue Radio app.
Avenue Radio News Update.
Tom Brady will continue his Hall of Fame career in Tampa Bay. According to Patch.com, the news came hours after Brady's somewhat expected but still staggering exit from New England, a franchise he led to 6 Super Bowl championships. It's unknown when the deal will become official, but ESPN's Adam Schefter was clear, saying, quote, Tom Brady will play in Tampa, unquote. The deal, according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, is worth roughly $30 million per year. The Buccaneers were one of the last teams anyone expected to sign Brady when the saga started. Tampa Bay lacks pedigree in history, despite a Super Bowl title in 2002. But Brady will bring instant credibility to a talented team that missed the playoffs for a 13th straight season last year. The next Super Bowl will be in Tampa Bay, and the Buccaneers play in New England in 2021.
Rainier Avenue Radio News.
This is a Rainier Avenue Radio.world community update on free, unlimited family streaming services that you can access with your King County Library card. Enjoy quality educational content on Canopy.com like Sesame Street, Arthur, and language learning. Unlimited access will be available for the next 30 days at kcls.kanopy.com. That's kcls.canopy.com.
What is the coronavirus? Coronavirus is affecting people's ability to go unanswered questions about the coronavirus.
What's the deal with
I feel like we're not getting the whole story about the coronavirus. There are several patients at the hospital who are at end of life. What is the coronavirus?
Coronavirus disease 2019, otherwise known as COVID-19, is a respiratory illness that can spread from person to person. Patients with COVID-19 have had mild to severe respiratory illness with symptoms of fever, cough, and shortness of breath. There is currently no vaccine to protect against COVID-19. There is no specific antiviral treatment for COVID-19. If you're concerned and you have symptoms, don't go to urgent care. Call your provider or call the ER or urgent
If you
care.
don't have anyone's number, call King County's coronavirus line at 206-477-3977. Or if that line is busy, you can try 1-800-525-0127.
This message is a public service announcement of Rainier Avenue Radio.org.
You know you can't get enough of Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world community update on free online exercise classes. The YMCA of Pierce and Kitsap counties has launched more than 60 free online exercise classes and youth programs to support the health and well-being of the community. Classes include boot camp, yoga, weightlifting, boxing, tai chi, and more. Find classes at ymca360.org. No membership is needed to access these classes at ymca360.org.
Phil-Am Radio, servicing the Filipino and Filipino Americans all over the world. Phil-Am Radio, streaming live in the internet every Tuesday from 1 o'clock to 2:30 p.m. Seattle, USA time. We are your host, Kuya Bert Kawili, Emma Heron, and
Manny Panganiban.
Phil-Am Radio.
For a Rainier Avenue Radio news update.
In one day, 475 people died in Italy from coronavirus, the biggest one-day toll in any country. According to BBC News, there were a total of 35,713 confirmed cases in the country, with more than 4,000 having successfully recovered. Lombardy, the worst-hit region, recorded 319 deaths in one day. Italy has been on lockdown for almost 2 weeks as authorities try to halt the progress of the virus. People who have been asked to stay indoors, but the number of deaths has continued to spiral. The WHO's emergency director, Mike Ryan, said this was probably due to the, quote, astonishing number of cases within the health systems, as well as the high number of elderly people in the population at large. Travelers from outside the EU are being turned away from airports and borders after this 27-country bloc imposed a 30-day ban to halt the spread of coronavirus. EU leaders agreed that internal borders that have been erected in recent days should come down.
Rainier Avenue Radio News.
Vaayirasii koronaa kun dhugoomsa. Hin dagatina harka keessan dhiqatu. Vaayirasiin koronaan haga guyyaa 9 gubbaa jiraachuu danda'a. Kanaafuu meeshaa namni dhukkubeetuudhaan qulqulleessuun gaariidha. Hatta yoo harka yeroo hunda dhiqtanis yoo bilbila tuuxaan jarmiin harkarratti ta'a jechuu. Bilbila keessan yoo qulqulleessitanii beetan yoo namni qufa'ee jarmiin xiqqoo lafa irratti bu'a. Achi booda harkaan tuuxan. Baay'inaan fuula keenya yeroo 16 tuqna sa'aatitti jechuu. Akka malee barbaachisa harka keessan dhiqatuun waan hunda qulqulleessuun bilbila keessanis qulqulleessuu qabdan jechuu. Ergaan kun uummata tajaajila raadiyoo Rainier Avenue of World fi Somali Youth and Family Club irraa isin dabarsina.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not meeting Mrs. Jones in that cafe for a chat and nothing else, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
We're back on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, your community radio station. This is our special series of shows on the coronavirus. From 1 to 3 every Friday, you can tune in here. We'll be talking to members of our community. We'll be talking to business community, small businesses, micro businesses, healthcare providers, and folks who are on the front lines, who are out there being essential workers at this time. And Josephine Howell tested positive for COVID-19. I just spoke to her, and she's feeling a little winded right now. And I told her to catch her breath, and if she's up to calling back, she can call back, and if she's not up to it, not to call. I can share with you, and again, I just spoke with her, But, you know, not to alarm anybody, but she's feeling a little short of breath and a little winded. That is obviously one of the things that impacts you when you get COVID-19. I can share with you a little bit about what I know with Josephine. While she's resting, if she calls back, and again, I instructed Josephine that if you do not feel like talking right now, then you should not talk, you should rest. But in speaking with Josephine, she told me that she suffers from allergies anyways. And so it's not uncommon for her to have some of those symptoms that are flu-like or cold-like during this time of the year, January, because she said when I asked her how long she'd been feeling this way, she said she just really wasn't sure, because could be as early as December or January or February, because this is a time of the year when those things begin to impact and affect her. She began to have some other symptoms that went along with it, but she still was just thinking it was not that much. And she was doing what she was doing, which is why she wants everyone to know that during this time period, she doesn't know when she got it. So if you have been interacting with her, then you should, you know, she wants everyone not to take this for granted and not to take this lightly. So eventually it got to a point where she went to the doctor. And it was because of her doctor, because of the symptoms, in addition to what was going on with her, she began to have diarrhea and vomiting and digestive problems. She went to the doctor, and because of some other things, she was able to get the test, which that's another thing. Everybody just can't get the test if you have symptoms, which also is why this makes it difficult, which is why she says to everyone else, please isolate yourself. If you have symptoms, stay home. So she'd been going all this time. She goes to the doctor. Doctor says, we need to get you a test. She took the test on Sunday morning. She said on Monday, test came back positive. She thought about all the people she had been interacting with during that time. And even in this time, as Josephine was talking to me, the thought was not of herself. It was all of the people that she had been interacting with, and how bad she felt that she may have potentially been a person who may have spread this, which is again why one of the things that she wanted me to do, and one of the reasons why she wanted to be on the air, was to reinforce in everyone that you should isolate yourself. And again, even if you are one of the people who may be asymptomatic, if you're young, if you're healthy, if your body can fight this off, it doesn't mean that you can't give it to other people. So fortunately, she found out prior to doing a concert at the Seattle Senior Center. She was scheduled to do a concert at the Seattle Senior Center. And she was telling me, Tony, you know how I am. I'm touchy-feely. I hug people. And she was just so thankful that she was able to find out that she was positive before she went to the Senior Center. I asked her how she was doing, and I've been checking on her. And she's been telling me that she's been feeling a little bit worse. Well, you know, that's what happens with this disease for some people. It makes you feel a little bit worse. And then for some folks, you start to feel a lot worse. For some folks, you get symptoms like a cold. You may have coughing and sneezing, and you might have a fever. You might get chills, and then you start to get better. I do hear things out there where people are saying, well, you know, it's elderly people, doesn't really impact them, and it's whatever you think the conspiracy theory is, or if it is, whatever it is that you feel about COVID-19, don't mistake that it's killing people. And it's getting people very, very sick, and it's changing people's lives. If you don't understand by now that what has been going on worldwide. If you feel like that is just some covert operation for the rich or whatever, at the end of the day, however you feel about it, it's still killing people. And so if you're not safe and you don't take precautions, people are going to be impacted and affected by it. And maybe you feel like it's not you and it's not anybody you know, but we're starting to find out it's more people that we do know. And that is one of the reasons why we are having this special series of shows for South Seattle. Because it's not like it wasn't and hasn't been in our community. It may not have manifested itself yet. And we haven't been able to find out any information. The reason why we know who's impacted in South Seattle is because people have contacted us and said, I have it. There hasn't been any information released about who has it in South Seattle. There aren't numbers available about who's been impacted in South Seattle. We know people have been going to the hospital. As a matter of fact, I got a call this morning. I had an ophthalmology appointment, just no emergency, just to get my eyes checked for normal conditions. And I was asked if it could be put off for a few months back to September. So I felt like this had something to do with the coronavirus, and indeed it did. One of the ways that the coronavirus is transmitted is through the eyes, through the nose, and through the mouth. And so you can imagine if that you work in ophthalmology, the stressors is that would put on in working with people and dealing with people when you're going directly into their eyes. But that wasn't all of it. It was just that so many resources had to be diverted from something like I had to do was just maintenance care to people who needed attention immediately. And so in preparing to deal with this and reacting to dealing with it, things that were non-essential were being put off for months so that they could deal with the crush of stressors that had been put on our hospitals. So, again, that's just another example of how the coronavirus is impacting and affecting people. So we actually had a conversation. I had a conversation with the person who called me, and this is the person who told me they're getting overwhelmed. They're having to divert so many resources to deal with the coronavirus. So if you happen to get a call and someone says, "Hey, can you put off your appointment?" which for you may seem like it. Think about it now. If you're suffering from a chronic disease and you really need to have it done, they're going to accommodate this. But this is what is meant by stressing our healthcare system. So you have to take extreme precautions if you're someone who works in ophthalmology to make sure that you are not infecting people. And again, this is one way that it gets into the system, through the eyes, the ears, through the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. And so can you imagine working directly with eyes, the things that would have to be done to ensure that there was sterilization, to ensure that people who came in did not already have it, did not have it on them, and then other people were being treated. But that was just for my thing to get my eye appointment put off. And again, we had a longer conversation about some of the other ways and resources that were being diverted that will have to be to deal with the impact of the coronavirus. So again, saying that to say, if you're one of the people who has to get out, understandable, who, at least in mind, but are we to judge on why you are out and why you are doing what you are doing? But if you can practice social distancing, if you can try to do a little bit extra to make sure that you protect yourself, because we know now to some extent that this thing has a long shelf life sitting on a variety of different services, and we also know that it is highly contagious and easily transferable. We know that Josephine Howell has it. I know today, as opposed to a few days ago when we were talking, she was able to converse with me quite easily. We had a lengthy conversation. As I've talked to her, she's been feeling less better. And today, at the point when we were supposed to have the interview, she's not up to it. So that's not to scare anyone. That is not to, but it is to put things into perspective into what we're dealing with here. As I mentioned before, this changes on a daily basis. We get new information. Things come up that we hadn't heard just the day before. You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. It's me, your host, Tony B. If you're wondering why I'm talking and Josephine Howell is not on the phone, I did talk to her, and she told me that she was feeling winded. And she asked if she could talk in a few minutes. And if you're feeling winded, you probably don't actually want to talk in a few minutes. And so I told her that, look, if you're not up to it, you don't have to do this. And so I've just shared again some of the conversation that we had. Again, she said for over a month, because of what she considered to be yearly allergic, seasonal allergies, that she wasn't suspecting that this could possibly have been, the coronavirus. It wasn't until she went into her doctor after she was suffering from some other ailments and symptoms that went along with it that she finally said, okay, well, let me just go see what this is. And he told her, you need to take the test, which is how she got tested. Many folks, you don't get to take the test. Again, you have to have certain conditions. And he asked her to come in because she did call first and say this is what's going on, and it had been going on for a while, and it's her personal physician, so he knew her. All of those things factored in, because you have people out there who still aren't getting to take the test, who may be having those same symptoms because the tests aren't available. They're becoming more available. But that's why we still don't know who has it, and that's why we're doing these shows on South Seattle, so that as members of South Seattle in your community, you can be aware, and you've heard of some of the amazing things that are taking place within this community. One of the reasons that Rainier Avenue Radio is in place, we do a number of amazing things. I think that that we broadcast high school sports. This year, Garfield won both the boys and the girls 3A basketball championships. Congratulations to Garfield. We were happy to be broadcasting those. We broadcast football this year. We were going to be broadcasting baseball, but that's been put on hold. We've had Seattle Public Schools athletic director, executive director, Pat McCarthy come in. He said right now the date that they're looking at is the 27th. We broadcast shows and critical issues. John Yasutaki has a show called Seattle Here and Now. Mac McGregor has a show called You Can Make a Difference. We broadcast a show specifically for seniors called Seniors Matter. We broadcast shows in multiple languages. We broadcast a show called Got Funny, hosted by Deontay Damper. We broadcast sports shows, Lidline Sports, with Granville Emerson and Renault Pepe Bing. And Otis. Paul Schneiderman has a show called Sports and Stuff, where he talks about sports from a legal aspect. We broadcast music shows, all kinds of music. A number of different DJs. DJ Nasty Ness Rodriguez has a show called K-Fox Night Beat every Sunday night. The legendary Nasty Ness Rodriguez has a show on Rainier Avenue Radio. Our own D-Money, a show called Fresh Juice next week on Wednesday night. He will be presenting his 500th show, his 500th episode of Fresh Juice. We've got the Northwest Rap Game, the only place where you can hear only Northwest rap music every time that show is on for the entire hour. They're playing rap music by local artists. Got Jazz in the Cabinets by Big Poppy. We've got Native Drumming Show. We've got electronic music shows. We have foreign language shows broadcast by youth and for youth. I say that to say that all of those are wonderful and amazing things that we're happy to do, but the reason why I think it is essential, the reason why initially there was an effort to get an LPFM was because in times of emergency, communities are going to need a reliable, consistent resource where they can get and share information about their well-being. And that's why we have shifted our programming from a number of those things to specific coverage of the coronavirus. And we're trying to, and the reason why we're saying South Seattle again, we're aware that this is happening all over the place. Just yesterday, we talked to the mayor of Bremerton. We know that this is happening in surrounding communities. But at this point in time, our goal was to make sure that our community was informed and safe and educated and aware of what was taking place so that we can potentially get ahead of the game when it came to protecting the members of our community and also showing to the rest of the world the amazing and wonderful things our community has been doing to rise to this occasion, to make sure that our community is livable, safe, and comfortable as it can be, to try to have some sense of normalcy into what we are doing. So once again, you're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. It's me, Tony B. This was the time when I was supposed to be talking to Josephine Howell. If you're just tuning in and you're wondering why you're not hearing Josephine, I did speak to her just as right before we were supposed to go on the air. We were in contact, and she was a little tired. She was winded. And she said, "Can she call back?" And said, "Of course." But if you're not up to it, don't call. And so this may not be the same as hearing from Josephine, but you're hearing the progression of this. On Sunday, she was checked. On Monday, she was notified that she was positive. On Tuesday, we spoke at some length, which is why I can tell you kind of what she went through. And then we just stayed in touch, and every day she was just being honest. When I said, "How are you doing?" She was, a little bit worse. And I hope that she's getting better. And I think that we all do. But this is reality. So Josephine cannot join us right now because she's feeling a little winded. And you know what? Maybe if she gets her rest, she'll be feeling a little bit better later on. And we may not necessarily have her on the air to share that with us. But you know what? Check with us via our social media, and we will let you know. And then she has the capability also to maybe get a little message out to folks. I would say right now that there are probably a lot of folks out there, Josephine, if you're listening, who are very concerned about you and are praying for you, and everybody wanting you to do well, and everybody wanting you to do better and get better. What you can do, if you'd like to be able to listen to us a little bit easier, one of the things that has happened is, along with our local listenership picking up and folks saying, "Oh, I can find out what's going on," we've started to have our listenership pick up more regionally, our listenership pick up more nationally and even internationally at one point, because we've been broadcasting these messages since March 13th. We actually shut our studios down on March 1st. On March 1st, you could no longer come into Rainier Avenue Radio. No one could. We reopened essentially on March 9th to do some broadcasting, a very limited amount of live broadcasting. And by March 13th, we were broadcasting shows in support of the coronavirus. You know what? I'm going to answer this call. Is this Josephine?
Hey, Tony, it's me.
Josephine, I have you on the air, just so that you know that.
Oh, okay. Hey, everybody.
And once again, Josephine, if you are not up to this, everybody wants you to be okay. So if you're too tired to talk, that is completely fine.
So I just want to just quickly let everybody know that I am much better off than most people. My symptoms are a little different than other people, but I'm still able to move around. I have to sit down a lot at home, but I'm just speaking blessings upon all those that are out here suffering and going through, or being in their homes, or having lack of whatever they got, or just tired, or just worried, or confused, or don't know what to expect, just know that while I'm at home, I'm praying for you. I don't have to know you by name. I'm just praying for all of us, and knowing that I know I'm gonna be all right. I just believe that in the depths of my soul, I'm gonna be all right, and I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to do, as much as I know to do, to help my body to fight. But I just want to let you all know that I appreciate everybody that has reached out. My goal is just to encourage each and every one of you. That's it. It's always been my goal. It's still my goal. Thank you, Tony, for reaching out and calling me when you found out. Just know that I love y'all, and I'll see y'all on the other side of victory, because there's victory on the other side of this. Yes, it is. At least for me, I know it is. Thank you. I can't answer everybody's call because I really do need to be saving my energy. I didn't get on Facebook Live and sing because I want y'all to see me at my best and not when I look like, oh my God. so when I can look the part, I'll come back on there. Don't weep for me. Don't cry for me. Don't feel bad for me. God is just trusting me with another testimony, like He trusting a lot of us. So that's all. Thank you, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. I want you to know I talked to the folks at Safeway, and I was talking to one of the regional managers, and she said, I saw that Josephine was going to be on your show today, and she says, Tony, you know, we love, and this is one of the regional managers at Safeway, and she says, you know, we love her, and she's done things for us before, and she sang for us, and we have a special package that we want to bring to you. Josephine, I hope you know how many folks are out there wanting you to get better and praying for you, and even still through all of this, the reason why we do so much is you're saying you're praying for us.
Most definitely. I just want to say about Safeway, they are really a blessing, and I got a call and was told that they wanted to know what I needed. Thank you. Tuesday, Tony, I just sat down on my couch and I broke down crying, and I could not stop crying. And y'all hear me, I wasn't crying because I was feeling bad about myself or that the pain was too great. I was crying because it is so wonderful to know that if something ever happened to me, that I was so loved, that I believe my children and my children's children would be looked out after. When it's all said and done, you want your work to speak for you, and I'm rich because I am loved by so many. And I promise you that when this body gets better, I'm going to give even more, because I've been given much. To whom much is given, much is required. So I really, 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 really appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Well, Josephine, I'm going to let you rest. And heal and take care of yourself, and thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing of yourself, and giving inspiration just by making this phone call. And but I'm gonna let you go so you can get back to resting again. And you know that a lot of folks are thinking about you and praying for you, and you just stay courageous. And we'll talk to you when this is, again, as you said, on the other side of this.
Okay, and I just wanna leave this with you all. Sometimes you have to encourage yourself. Sometimes you have to speak victory during the test. So no matter how you feel, speak the word and you will be healed. Speak over yourself. Encourage yourself. in the Lord, Lord, yeah. Thank y'all. I love y'all.
Love you
See y'all
too.
on the other side of victory.
Love you, Josephine.
Thank you.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. It's me, Tony B. We'll be back with Doug Baldwin of the Family First Foundation right after this.
Here with the Rainier Avenue Radio traffic update. You can listen to us in your car 24/7 anytime by downloading the free TuneIn app. Once you do, search Rainier Avenue Radio. And remember, do not curse out your fellow drivers. This has been your Rainier Avenue Radio traffic update. Time for a Rainier Avenue Radio news update.
After a 3-year fight against the city's homeless camp removals, the American Civil Liberties Union of Washington wants a federal judge to dismiss its lawsuit on behalf of 2 homeless people whose constitutional rights they said were violated when the city removed their camps and seized or destroyed their property. One reason they asked for the dismissal, they can't find the plaintiffs. According to the Seattle Times, plaintiffs Brandy Osborne and Lisa Hooper said they lost personal possessions such as identification documents and mementos such as photographs, all seized and or destroyed without adequate notice or a meaningful way to retrieve anything. The Seattle Times has found that many homeless people lost important belongings, even medicine, in a camp removal. Most homeless people didn't get them back last year. Breanne Schuster, the ACLU lawyer, said city officials want a ruling stating the homeless camp removal process is legal and that they want the case on its merits when that's not true.
Rainier Avenue Radio News.
Coronavirus. Visit kingcounty.gov/COVID for information, guidance, and resources to help keep our communities safe and healthy. That's kingcounty.gov/COVID. This message is a public service of Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Wash your hands, don't touch your face, wipe things down, clean up your space. When you cough and sneeze, do responsibly. If you feel you're getting ill, isolate at home and chill. No, you're not alone. Please pick up your phone and call 206-477-3977. King County 206-477-3977. Public Health 206-477-3977. King County 206-477-3977. Public Community Radio Station will provide you with more information. Say Rainier Avenue Radio. Your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Hey, what's up? This is Sergio LaCour from Sergio Love Lines on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Check us out every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Central, as we dedicate songs to you and your loved ones. We talk about relationships. We put it in the mix, and we're doing it just for YOU. It's Sergio Love Lines on Rainier Avenue Radio.world every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Central. Be there.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Don't forget to log on www.RainierAvenueRadio.world.
All right. You know what I'm thinking of? I'm hearing that, but Rainier Avenue Radio, wash your hair. That was P.O. Box, by the way. Poe, who made that little a cappella public service announcement for us. And I just think it's just awesome. It does a great job of explaining, what this is in a way that people may want to hear about it. A nice little thing. So thanks to P.O. Box for doing that little piece for us. On the line with me right now from the Family First Foundation and former Seattle Seahawk, Mr. Doug Baldwin. Doug, are you there?
I am.
On the one hand, man, great to have you back. Great to talk to you again. Thank you for being part of our community. The circumstances may not be the best. But then again, what I've been talking about is the number of people who have stepped up to the plate during this time. So thanks for what you're doing. For people who don't know or who may not have heard, can you first talk about the Family First Foundation, what it is, why you decided to start it, and this is a perfect example of why it is important that we have people like you who, when they say they're vested in the community, is such a wonderful thing to have.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on your platform today. The Family First Community Center Foundation is actually a backing organization for the community center that we're building in Renton. And obviously, with the COVID-19 pandemic, everything has been put on hold across the country, across the world, really. And so, we've been put on pause in terms of progressing towards the construction of the building. And during that time, I didn't want to sit and wait for things to happen. So we kind of pivoted and put all of our resources and all of our manpower towards helping out in the community right now. And so the foundation is taking donations off of our website, which is familyfirstrenton.org. We're taking donations, and 100% of that money is going towards answering the call for this pandemic. And so we've also been recruiting volunteers, which the response from that has been unbelievable. We have over 200 volunteers right now that are assisting us with delivering food from Northwest Harvest and from Safeway to organizations and individuals and families who need food right now, who are the most vulnerable in our community. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to do. So we're out there just trying to figure out how we can help.
And Doug, when you retired, folks may have followed you or may not have followed you as you moved on to your new career path and things that you were doing. I can tell you I'm not surprised that, again, for this city, when there was a pandemic, when people are stepping up, and I don't know if you've been listening to the show, but today I've had the opportunity to talk with folks from Safeway. I've talked with with Josephine Howell. I've talked with Leigh Thomas, who works with food justice and ensuring that the proper foods are into schools. And as an example, they had to turn their program from one that gave advice on food justice to gathering food and delivering the proper foods to people so that they could continue to make sure that there was an understanding that there were certain things that we need to have in our bodies. And then in talking to Safeway, and then bam, Doug Baldwin and his sense of urgency to support this community. And Doug, this may seem like a simple question for you, but again, why at this time, with all of the options that you have in front of you and all of the things that you've got going on, would you stop it down and say, you know what, not only do we have to figure out how we can be impactful, because you could have just, you had to take what you were doing and say, how can we turn that into something that's going to be positive for the community? So at the end, it may be a simple question for you, Doug, but for people listening right now, what made you decide that, you know what, I need to get busy?
I don't know. I mean, it's just, there was an opportunity there that, I've been blessed to be in a situation where I can make connections with people who are like-minded and passionate about giving back to the community. I saw that you had Sarah Osborne on earlier from Safeway. She's an incredible human being, and these people, and I think it was Leigh Thomas also you had from FEEST for partnering with their organization as well. There's so many people in the community that are doing great things, and when you hear the stories and when you see people activating, I just feel compelled to do so as well, and to do my part. Make a football analogy out of it. When we won the Super Bowl, it's like everybody had to do their part. Everybody had to be selfless in their role, and this is the same thing, But this is just there's greater circumstances here, and it takes a lot of people to do their part. And so I know that our organization had capacity and we had the ability to recruit volunteers to go out and help. So if we could do that, that's our small role in this team effort.
Doug, if you would, how did this hit you? Obviously, for everyone, this was to some extent a surprise and a shock. How did you progress through the process of this being something that, maybe it's a cold, maybe it's a flu. Oh boy, it's potentially something that can be. You spread some damage. It's spreading all over the world. It's in Kirkland. Seattle is the epicenter of this. It's nationwide. What was the evolution of this for you, and what are your thoughts as you see what's taking place in our society right now?
Yeah, I think I was just like everybody else. I was a little confused, obviously a little worried about what was coming out of other countries and what we were hearing. And then, once it's in this country and then it starts spreading, and then just being connected with a number of different organizations and health providers and hearing their fear and their worry about what was to come, I think that's when it became a little bit more serious to me. But I also believe that, all of us, we're not immune to this. And I don't mean that immunity in terms of not getting it. I mean immune to it in terms of, it's going to impact all of our lives in a number of ways. And, I think the most impactful story I can share is that I have a very close friend whose parents have COVID-19 and they're not doing too well right now. His father's on a ventilator and they're not sure how much longer he has. So when you are touched by that, when that, is a firm reminder of how serious the situation is, you have to take it seriously. And I understand there's some people who don't have that perspective. But that's where it is for me. And so that's when it started changing for me. That's when the transition started. I didn't think that I would be impacted by this. All the news was that younger people, healthier people will not have issues. But, I have a grandmother who I'm very concerned about. My mother, I'm very concerned about. My father, I'm very concerned about. So, and not to mention that there are cases of younger people who are getting it and having complications. So I'm also worried about my wife and my daughter. So, there's a whole bunch of things wrapped around in it. And I think at the end of the day, just take precautions to protect yourself and protect your family and be smart about it, right? But at the same time, in order to do that, you have to take it seriously. And so that's what we're doing.
Where is it the family combine that's in Renton? You mentioned that there was some building. Where are you in the process of doing that right now before all this happened? Can you guys kind of give us an update on what's taking place?
Yeah, so the building is actually going to be in the Cascade, Benson area. We haven't started construction. We were actually supposed to break ground in May. But obviously, with the climate of everything right now, that's on hold. So we were pushing forward to move forward with the construction, but we'll postpone that and wait until a better time. So yeah, the family combine that we hold every year. We're hoping to be able to hold that this year as well in August. It's a place for families and children to come and just really experience what it's like to go through some drills in the football world, but really understand, what the mission is for the Family First Community Center. And so that's going to happen in August 23rd, I believe is the date that we've put down. But, again, everything's going on. It's a moving target right now, so we're just waiting to see how that goes.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio .world. It's me, Tony B. My guest joining me is Doug Baldwin of the Family First Foundation and former Seattle Seahawk. And Doug, that's how I'm referring to you because that's why I'm contacting you. I'm contacting you on behalf of the Family First Foundation. And so which I don't think you mind. I'm not really calling you to talk about football. And so I don't want you to think that I'm just not talking to you about football, but yeah, we know what's going on right now. And having said that, how has this impacted you personally? We know, as you said before, that you know somebody who's impacted. There was a point in time where as we were doing this earlier, we first started our broadcast. One of the messages that we had to get out was that there, in particular, there among some African American and African immigrant communities, the thought that you couldn't catch this if you were black, and or if you were a brown person, and then we found out that things were starting to get shut down. Businesses were closed down, small businesses, micro businesses, and then we were told you couldn't gather in 250. Then it was reduced to 50, and now 10. And people who made their livings, whether it was in arts and entertainment, who were performers on the highest level, could no longer perform. If you were an athlete on the highest level, there was no longer the opportunity to display your skill. And how has this impacted you, Doug, personally?
I mean, I think it's very similar to everybody else. I think, you just look at the personal relationships that you have with people who may be impacted by it. The guy that's dealing with it with his parents. I really don't know how to be there for him. This was obviously very unexpected, and his parents were relatively healthy for the most part, and so he's going through a very traumatic time. So as we continue to practice social distancing and shelter in place, and also still try to find a way to help out in the community, I'm also dealing with the human aspect of it from the personal relationship side, where I'm trying to be there for people who are directly impacted by this. I think, in the most part, I can't even really think about the other side of it, how it's impacted me in some ways. Obviously, my wife and I are here at our home and practicing social distancing, but, we get to spend time together, and so we're trying to make the most out of it and be positive about it. But at the same time, we know that there's a lot of people across the country and across the world who are, drastically more impacted by this than we are.
And the other thing about this, Doug, is that your celebrity does draw attention to this. Your celebrity does make folks aware that this is happening, and to see someone like you saying, "Hey, it's affecting me, it's impacting me, and it's impacting what I'm doing." But instead of that, I pivoted my business to say, "How can I be a member of this community who's part of the solution?" And so you mentioned that you had a number of volunteers who were driving. You were trying to make all this happen. For people who are interested in donating, because that's what's needed. People who are interested in volunteering, what are the resources that you need, and how can people get in touch, or where should they go to get in touch so that they can participate if they want to be engaged, if they want to be involved, if they have time, resources, or money that they want to give to assist in what you're trying to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate you asking it. So first and foremost, they can go to familyfirstrenton.org, and they can either sign up on our volunteer form, or they can donate. I will say we originally started out thinking that we would just ask volunteers to help deliver food, but we're finding that we need volunteers for all kinds of things. Northwest Harvest, we're talking with them about getting volunteers to help prepare their meal kits that we then deliver out into the community. So there's a huge need of just people in general to help, and obviously the donations as well. I also want to, spotlight. I don't want to just put all these on our organization. There's a lot of organizations out there that are doing tremendous work. I mentioned Safeway, FEEST, obviously. I just got a notification from Smart Motors, who is kind of like they work on cars, and now they're building face masks for the medical workers, the face shields. And so they've pivoted their business to do it as well. So, it's an incredible amount of people that are coming together to do this. And so, yes, if you want to join, you can donate on our website. You can also join as a volunteer, and we'll put you to work as soon as we, get organized to do so. I mean, obviously we're doing stuff now, but again, the need just continues to grow, and we're, putting people wherever the need is.
Okay, one more again, give out that information again for folks. If you want to volunteer, if you want to donate, the need continues to increase. That information, one more again, where they can go to, or how they can get involved.
Yep, you can go to familyfirstrenton.org, And if you just go to the website, it's self-explanatory. You can donate. You can also sign up as a volunteer.
Well, again, bro, your presence here was simply because not only of what you did on the field, but that too, but also the legacy that you leave behind as an individual and a person in this community. So I want to thank you because I know you've been getting several requests, and I know that it was very intentional for you to make the decision to stop down and take some time to talk with Rainier Avenue Radio and our South Seattle listeners. So I really appreciate that, and I want to give you the opportunity here for final words. If there's anything that you just want to say or anything that you want to share or impart.
Man, first and foremost, again, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think this is a time that we can really demonstrate the unity that we have in our community, and really put ourselves to work to help others. I think this is really, especially with my family and with my friends, it's really showing us what we have been taking for granted in life, not only as individuals, but as a community, right, as friends and as family, and really looking towards each other to show our love more so than we have in the past. And I think this is an opportunity for us all to do that, whether it's with our friends and family or within our community. There's something that we can do. And so I would encourage everybody, whether it's donating or volunteering or just figuring out a way how to support your community during this time, because there's inevitably going to be people who are going to suffer more from this, whether it's by the disease itself or by the economic implications. And so, there's a need for people to be compassionate, empathetic, and to think about others. And so I encourage everybody to do that.
All right, Doug. Well, hey, you and your family be safe, and we'll continue to put the word out and get some more volunteers for you. And when the opportunity and the time comes for the break ground, let us know when it is so that we can support you in that endeavor. And again, thanks for giving us a call, and be safe out there.
I will. You too. Appreciate you.
My man. You've been listening to Rainier Avenue Radio .world. Again, this is our regular Friday broadcast of our special series of the impact of the coronavirus on South Seattle, where we will share with you the stories of the people of South Seattle, the community of South Seattle, the service providers of South Seattle, the people, again, who, if you've heard today, who said we were doing one thing, but when this happened, we completely shifted into doing another thing. Again, the quote that I'm using, everybody got a plan until you get punched in the nose. And you got to do something different, because that was probably not the plan. But how do you recover from things is a big part of that, when something happens. And the community of South Seattle, if you've just been joining in, we've been broadcasting since February 13th, and you've heard some incredible stories. If you want to go back and listen some more, every week we'll be putting out a schedule. As we build our shows, you'll be able to go back and listen to the old shows that we've done that'll be airing on a regular basis. In some cases, they'll be up on our archives. And then some of our shows will be available on our Facebook page as well, and our YouTube page. So you can go back as far as the 13th is when we first started broadcasting, and hear a number of different shows and just kind of see how this has progressed in its impact on South Seattle and the surrounding communities. And we will continue to do this for you as this unfolds. So stay tuned to Rainier Avenue Radio .world. And here's the other thing. If something is going on with you and you want to share your voice and you want to share your narrative of what that is, make sure and email us at rainieravenue.radio.world@gmail.com. That's rainieravenue.radio.world@gmail.com. And tell us your story. We may get in contact with you and ask you to share it with us on the radio. It doesn't matter if you're a small business, if you're an individual, if you're a community group, and if you know of someone out there who is, again, just maybe flying under the radar for some folk, like FEEST was, if you hadn't heard of them, then let us know about that. If you know of someone who now has contracted the coronavirus COVID-19 and they want to share their story and they want to let folks know that it's out there and it's real and it's impacting, they can get in touch with us as well. Right now, when we're not getting statistics and breakdown by communities about who has this, who's been tested, who might be tested, and again, this information is somewhere in hospitals. People are going to the hospital. That we should be able to aggregate this information. And I do want to say that both King County Council member Gramai Zahilai did provide us with some information to some questions that we asked. And just recently, Seattle City Council member Tammy Morales got back to me and gave me some information that may allow me to find more pinpointed exact information by zip code about what's taking place within our communities, and we're going to take a look at that, aggregate that, and get that to you so that you can get a better understanding how this is impacting you in the community of South Seattle. We'll continue to broadcast in the interest of the community of South Seattle, knowing full well that this is more than just South Seattle, and so we'll continue to also share stories